what's going on, everybody? I hope you all can hear me okay. We're going to start this show in just a few minutes, and we'll get the ball rolling. All right, what's going on, everybody? I hope you all can hear me okay. We're going to start the show now. It's around 8:12. So, yeah, I think we're going to get ready and start things on. So before we start, again, I want to thank my supporters, subscribers, people that are tuning in right now. Again, I wouldn't have gotten this far without you guys. That being said, I know I have been a little bit absent the past, like maybe week or two with making videos and whatnot and content for you guys. And I have been a little bit busy outside of YouTube. So thank you guys for understanding. That being said, let's cover some news events. That's what's going on first. And I think the first thing that I would like to cover would be the Indian Child Welfare Act. I was notified this a few weeks ago in regards to it being challenged in the Supreme Court. And I think I'd just really like to inform my viewers of what's going on, right? Because maybe some of us don't know, and to be honest, I didn't know until someone had told me. Um, like someone said here, superhero movies. Yeah, definitely. But and we're going to get into the movie. I actually enjoyed it, and maybe that's just because I don't see too many CGI movies, Marvel movies, to be honest. But I had my positives and negatives about the movie, which I'm going to get into. But I think I really would like to get into just what's going on in the world right now and the news. So that being said, let me go ahead and find that article here for you guys, and we're going to go ahead. You'll just give me a second. Just waiting for this to load. Thank you guys for waiting. Okay. Okay, everybody. So like I said, and I think if I could just summarize this to you guys the best I could, again, it's the Indian Child Welfare Act, which is being challenged in the Supreme Court. There are people that are against this act, and I should explain what it is. Essentially, it's to protect Native children in the United States from tribes from being, adopted from non-Native families, because it's important to uphold a culture and people so that they don't lose that connection, so they don't grow up away from a community. And I, as an adoptee myself, of course, I'm from Peru, and my story is quite different. It's definitely really resonates with me, just because of the fact that it is being challenged. And I'll read a little bit of the article, and then I'll kind of give my 2 cents. And I guess it would be appropriate for me to turn off this music, so please excuse me. All right, so going back, and I'll read a few lines, well, actually maybe a few paragraphs, and I'll give my 2 cents again. Kimberly Jump Crazy Bear held up a self-made Uphold ICWA sign across the street from the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. on the morning of November 9th. I'm just here on behalf of all of you who can't be here today to help lend my voice, she said before the oral arguments for Howland versus Bracken began. Without our children, we don't have a people anymore. Jump Crazy Bear is an Osage Ogallala Lakota who grew up in Virginia. While Jump Crazy Bear held up and alternated her sign, a woman across the street at the rally said over the speakers, "If you take our children, you take our identity." Jump Crazy Bear was one of the hundreds of Indigenous people and allies who showed up in front of the highest court in the land to show their support for the Indian Child Welfare Act. Approximately 60 stood in line, waiting to sit inside the court to witness the oral arguments. Many sat between the Capitol and the court, listening to 3 hours of oral arguments on their headphones, and others listened to the line of speakers and songs all morning and into midday. Howland versus Bracken challenges the Indian Child Welfare Act, a law that has been referred to as the gold standard for child welfare by many child welfare organizations. It was enacted in 1978 to halt the unnecessary forced removal of Native kids from their families, said Sarah Kastelik, an enrolled citizen of the Native village of Oizinki and executive director of the National Indian Child Welfare Association. This is Sarah here. In our organization, one of the things that we talk about is a recipe for colonization. Kastelik said this recipe is constantly followed by colonizers to colonize Indigenous people. She said there are 5 ingredients: take the land, control the natural resources, especially the water, replace Indigenous governance to delegitimize Indigenous thought, undermine Native worldview, values, traditions, beliefs, And number five, the most important ingredient, she says, is to sever Native children from their sense of identity, from their culture, and from their sense of belonging, and from the sense of connectedness to something. This would meet the United Nations definition of genocide. Comments really quick, guys, if you guys have any questions. Uh, yeah, Andres, this is a movie. As Ancient America said, yeah, it's about African American superheroes, African superheroes. So I don't know what you're expecting. Anyway, just wanted to see if anyone had any questions before I continue on with the article. Um, yeah, so here you can see the pictures of, darn it. Okay, Twitter. Sorry, guys, expect the loading. Um, of Native Indigenous people at the rally and allies, I assume, too, that are protesting, of course, against this challenge. So, going back, so when we look at what the child welfare system has done, it followed right on the heels of the boarding school policy as federal boarding schools waned in popularity. The child welfare system took over right where the education system left off, Keslick said. There's no accident. This is by design. Among the dozens carrying ICWA signs was Bobby Hamilton. She traveled 1,300 miles from El Reno, Oklahoma, with 150 citizens from Cheyenne and Aparo tribes to show support. Hamilton is at the front lines of the Indian child welfare. Of Indian child welfare. She's an Indian child welfare caseworker with the Cheyenne and Aparo tribes and foster care worker. She retired from the U.S. government as a registered nurse with the Veterans Affairs and the Indian Health Services. Hearing the oral arguments hit home with her, she said. Every day we face the trials and tribulations that the children are facing. There's trauma. There's a lot of feelings that the children have that they are trying to deal with, and on a daily basis, I'm there with them. I feel those feelings. I feel their frustration and even their happiness when their happiness comes through. I'm there with them, Hamilton said, standing in front of the Supreme Court. And so are our children, are very important to us, and we want what's best for our children. It's hard to see them in situations that they're in sometimes. Hard decisions have to be made. And I'm right there with them, feeling the same thing. So, guys, yeah, I really wanted to share that with you all. And again, like as an adoptee myself, again, this really had me think a lot because my view on, well, I'm not a part of, as everyone knows, I'm not part of a community or a tribe, but I've always had my own thoughts on adoption. I guess for myself is that I was always, fortunate, but I understand that my situation is not like everyone else's. Um, so, in my opinion, of course, I hope that the Indian Child Welfare Act is upheld and um, the Native American people here in the U.S. Are victorious and successful. I guess my question would be what many people that oppose this might say would be that maybe the fact that they're not Native American, and let's say that a child uh, is wanted by a family that can care for them, correct? A non-Native family, let's say they're white, black, or whatever. Um, but the family that, let's say, whoever's in charge of this uh, wants to give this kid to who is Native, maybe might not have the resources to help protect this child. So then perhaps their argument would be, do they think it would be in the best situation for the child to be with this non-native family? I'm just trying to look at it from what they would be arguing about. Now, from what I've said, or from what I've heard and seen in other articles, non-native families, non-native American families find this to be, they said that it was racist, right? They believe that it shouldn't be just because they aren't native. But obviously, people that support ICWA don't believe it's racist at all. It's just primarily to protect children and making sure that they don't lose their identity, right? Um, So yeah, I really hope that I think that the date for this is in sometime in April of next year, to see what really happens. So yeah, I really hope the best. And Native children, in my opinion, I want to see um, the identity not be taken away. So yeah. Anyway, did anyone? I'm gonna read the comments here, and yeah, let's see what's going on. I'm adopted to the age of 26. So, oh wow, that's late. Yeah, I was adopted at 6 months old from Peru. So, as I said, my story is quite different. Race based doesn't apply to IWCA, which is protesting kinship. Yeah, and that's what I thought too. That it's protesting like kinship, lineage and tribal nation member rights, which I 100% agree. They're extremely important, and those should be upheld. Maybe it should. Oh yeah, let's put that music back on. Maybe it should be at both sides. The family is the most who want to adopt, encourage blood family connection. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good question, Jesse. Combines litigation from a handful of other families and multiple interested states, including Texas, where Chad and Jennifer Brack and the adopted parents live. Yeah, there were a lot of other families included in this. See, the courts are saying it is racially based and therefore unconstitutional. Yeah, so it was the courts too that were saying this. What's going on, Ancient Americas? Yeah, I hope I was able to explain that. But yeah, that's the reason why people are challenging it. And to those that are watching, I am going to drop the link for anyone that wants to join, wants to give their thoughts, as soon as I just cover a couple more things here. He was blatantly racist to Mexicans, not even at all. Mexican Ironman disagree. Well, Tim, it's your opinion. So, I think what else did I want to go on here really quick? There's another issue what's going on in the world. I guess one other thing I guess I could cover in news, which maybe to some people was interesting. Honestly, to me it was seeing whatever. But Elon Musk has taken over Twitter. I thought it's kind of funny how, he fired a lot of the people that work there, hired a lot of the people that he's been with, and now it's kind of went through some issues, right? So I'm personally not on Twitter that much. Like I just activated, or should I say reactivated, the Indigenous podcast Twitter a week ago, and I left like a total of 2 tweets. I think it's just because like I run like the Instagram, YouTube, I run Discord and some other applications, and obviously combine that with my life. I really don't have time to go on Twitter that much. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to go over some news. So that being said, let's get to the main point of this video here, and that was, of course, learning about Black Panther 2. So before we go on, I'm going to drop the link really quick. Anyone wants to talk about it, before I give my 2 cents, of course. I'm going to give the same rules as last time, guys. If I know you, then I'm just going to let you come on. But if I don't know you, I'm going to ask you to show your face. So, yeah, my thoughts on this movie. Wow. And I think I kind of want to reiterate that I don't go to the movie theater that often. Honestly, the last time I was in the theater was, I think it was in 2020 or 2019, right before COVID, and I had watched The Joker, right? I actually enjoyed The Joker. It was a little bit gory, but that's comes with good movies sometimes. So yeah, Black Panther 2, I would say that I would definitely recommend people to watch the first Black Panther movie, because I went with a family member, and she did not watch the first one, so obviously there's some misconnections, of course. But I think what should I go about? The good things I liked first was the animation. The CGI itself I found to be very well. I mean, the animation was good, and from my perspective, I think that just how they created Namor's civilization was very impressive to me. And the fact that it was underwater, I think, from a techie standpoint, from my own perspective, is that that takes forever to animate. So the fact that, Black Panther 1 came out, not even just 4 years ago, right? And they managed to put this together. Now, I've heard from some critics that maybe they didn't put enough time into it, but for me, I really enjoyed the animation. From Wakanda, the city itself, my eyes enjoyed it very much. Now, getting on to the character design. I haven't watched Black Panther 2 because it's all about women empowerment and diversity. Okay, well, I'll keep on talking about what I found enjoyable. The character design, of course, looking at Namor, there was a lot of Mesoamerican representation, right? And I found it beautiful because, we don't see too much Mesoamerican representation in movies. Okay, seems to be a lot of anti-women empowerment, anti-progressive ideologies on here. Interesting. So, yeah, the character design of Namor, and also Namora as well, I found to be just extremely impressive. Not to mention the feathers, the necklace of jewelry, just everything. I very much enjoyed. Yeah, Santiago, I agree. Especially there's not a lot of native male characters in the media, right? I think that Hollywood is slowly moving towards that more in terms of native representation. I think for native people, people south of the U.S. border, and also people from Asia as well. I think you're starting to see more representation from those two groups, which is good, right? And then, of course, the plot of the movie. I think that, going from transition to transition, it made it very easy for the audience to follow. Oh, I did want to talk about one other character. I found that Shira, I think that's how you pronounce her name. I found that she did very well in her role. I think she displayed a good amount of leadership with Wakanda, with her people. And I think what I enjoyed was the fact that, for those of you that are watching, I don't want to ruin this for you, so I'm going to assume most of you have watched this, so cover your ears if you have not, and you plan on to, is that the queen dies, right? She's killed by Namor. And she gets very angry. And what is Killmonger? The bad guy, right? From the previous movie, it kind of came into her mind, as she had planned on responding back to Namor after her mother was killed. And she just uses her anger. Or actually, her anger takes over her mind so much that she just goes on full-on attack mode against Namor and his people. But of course, not everything was planned as it should have been. And I think what I want to make the connection is to us as humans, right? When we get very mad and angry at certain things, sometimes we let our anger overwhelm us, right? And we do things that we regret. And I think from just a logical perspective, she goes and attacks Namor very close to where they're at, near the Atlantic Ocean, right? So you're going to fight a civilization that very much is water based. That's their specialty, is fighting in the water. So why wouldn't you try some way to lure those people more closer to land? I mean, I know the movie's got a movie, right? But what's going on, Dexter? Yeah, we got the fires and arrows. To all of you that are enjoying, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like, that'd be great. What's up, Al Red Dog? Yeah, hey, I'm doing well, man. Movie was great. I don't think they were pushing feminism. Yeah, I watched the movie. I didn't see feminism really being pushed, to be honest. The visuals, yeah, are amazing. Yeah, they look very real with feathers. Yeah, most importantly, underrepresented. It's just, yeah, for Mexico and Guatemala. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, going back, also the fact that, again, looking at it from a logical standpoint, I believe it's told in the movie that the civilization with Namor, the population is much bigger, right? And while they might not have as many of the technological advancements that Wakanda has because they're from the surface, I think they even understood that they would eventually overpower Wakanda. Wakanda was just a city, right? A small city where Namor ran like a giant underwater empire with millions of people. So she let her anger not only get the best of her, but she's also willing to sacrifice so many of her own to fight Namor and his civilization. So yeah, that's just like my point from where I see that was kind of like a flaw in the movie. Now, going back, and of course, like the representation of Namor, right? Again, we don't see too many Mesoamerican superheroes, if any at all. So I want to like thank like the producers and everyone in Black Panther for showing this representation, right? And I actually had an article that I would like to share, and I'll make it quick. The article is, I think, somewhat on point with kind of what I believe is a flaw in Latin American media. Let me get to that. Where are they at? And before I start, I just want to say that I don't, would someone say something? I like the editing. Oh my gosh, excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, I like the editing too. I thought it was good. I thought the scripts were good. Yeah, so I guess in the movie, the Atlanteans are the Mayans. You know what surprised me was that a lot of the critics that I had read about, they really didn't like the history, the backstory of Namor, right? But many of us here are of like native descent, are very much interested in that, and I enjoyed it. Like I wanted to know more. But yeah, but of course, like the critics, a lot of them the videos that I watched, they were like from Europe, right? So, with respect to European friends, that maybe they don't. I don't want to say they don't, but many of them aren't as well versed in the Mayan history. Hence, why these particular YouTubers made that comment. But I could be wrong. Maybe they just found it boring. But I always find Mesoamerican history interesting. I'm a fan of Namor and the Atlanteans. He isn't a superhero per se. He's more of an anti-hero. Yeah, he was an anti-hero. He was the antagonist, right? I mean, the movie was based off of African characters, and they were the heroes of the movie. I hope I didn't say that he was a hero. Well, he's a hero to his civilization. Hey, what's going on, Steven? I'm sorry. Hey, it's all good. We all get distracted sometimes. Anyone else? How old are you, Marcus? Yeah, I'm 31. Thank you. So, let me get back to what I was going to share here. As soon as I find it, excuse me, guys. Where is this file at? Okay. Again, I kind of just found this website. And no, I have opinions on the word Latine, but the point that I'm trying to get at is, before I talk or read about this article, is that you don't see much representation of native indigenous appearing people, right? Now I know that what I've read in article, Tenoch doesn't identify as indigenous himself, because I think that in Mexico and many countries in South and Central America, which I learned long ago, is that seeing yourself as indigenous means that you're from a community or a tribe, right? You could look as native as being, what do they say, 100%. You could be 100% native, right? But if you don't live in a community, calling yourself indigenous is kind of raises questions, I think. So I think that's what I wanted to get at. But anyway, so I'm going to read a little bit of this article, and I just wanted to talk. I think it points out the issues. Oh, the article is blocked by the picture. Can you guys? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Ancient Americas. Wow, that would have been bad. Okay, I hope you guys can see this now. Thank you, Ancient Americas, for telling me that. So, Tenoch Huerta is soaring. Since starting a superhero epic Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, the Mexican actor has been trending for Dancing with Lupita Nyong'o and going viral for his critique Latine representation in media. In Latin America, especially Mexico, we have a lack of representation. If you turn on the TV, all the people are white, right? And I've mentioned this in past videos. Mexico looks like on TV the Scandinavian country. So he said in an interview with NBC News, and he's not wrong. And I actually had watched a video of Namor explaining this in detail. So portrayals of Latinos both in Latin America and the United States are overwhelmingly white. This is by design. For generations, entertainment media has visibly and stereotyped Black indigenous people with origins across Latin America, just as its Spanish and Mestizo white supremacist leaders have done in the region throughout history. This is why the brown skin Huerta playing a Maya-inspired anti-hero is so powerful. And it's also why it's not surprising to me that it took the U.S. Black entertainment, not Latino media, to tell dignified stories of indigeneity in a major motion picture. So in the Marvel film, Huerta plays the feathered serpent god Kukulkan, or Namor, to his enemies, a character with both Maya and Aztec influences. His underwater kingdom, Kukulkan, came into existence. I want to make sure I'm not repeating what I've kind of went over, and I think I am in a way. I'll just read it. After Spanish invading colonizers decimated the Yucatan Peninsula with disease. For the actor, the role isn't important because it's a representation of Latinidad, but rather it reflects the people, the lands and cultures, the colonization and hegemony that created Latinidad tried to eradicate. To give this background to Namor, the Mesoamerican culture, especially Maya culture, they nailed it, he said. As a historian and educator, I can see how this superhero tale reflects real life. In history class that I teach with Javier Wallace through Afro-Latinx travel called Mexico and Texas Entanglements, we go over Mexico's white supremacist racial goals and the collaboration with the U.S. We cite with the Casta Wars that cut the indigenous population of the Yucatan Peninsula by half, left indigenous Maya and Yaqui people landless and enslaved by the white and mestizo ruling classes, and jailed or deported Maya people to Cuba, Puerto Rico, to labor in sugarcane fields. Like these indigenous communities, hundreds of thousands of African people were also on the Yucatan Peninsula during this time, outnumbering the Spanish. Namor's rage in Wakanda Forever hearkened to the real past of Spanish subjugation of African and indigenous people that informed the present and long ongoing resistance to it. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to share. See 17 comments. So I see a lot of people had their views. Let me scroll up here. Oh, I hope you guys could read it. Dang, I totally should have zoomed in more. Yeah, they don't think you're useless. They speak the language for some reason. Spectrum. Wanted me to get that septum piercing on the J test. Yeah, his piercings did look cool. problem with critiques of colorism is that it does not address Americans as a race. Did he call himself Mesoamerican in the interview? That's a great question. And what I read about what Thanos thought about that was that, like I said earlier, he didn't, unless he's changed his mind, he didn't identify himself as indigenous, but he encouraged his followers and people that support him that were Latin or Mexican descent to dig into their indigenous roots, to learn more about their history, right? Which I can respect. Didn't like the movie, thought it was racist, especially the desert scene. Okay. Large platform and audience as well. Sorry guys, I'm just reading comments. Yeah, guys, I see comments on here. I just, again, wanted to repeat, I'm not like on board with with the word Latinx. I think I gave my thoughts on that. Yeah, I thought he did too at some point. He doesn't identify to the laws of his colonial government, not because he's not indigenous. He's well aware of his perpetuation. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I think it also has to do with like the government and how laws and systems are operated there in Mexico. If you are saying that you're indigenous, right, then you would technically be have to register yourself, right? You can't just like say that you're native on like a survey. Unfortunately, I think that's how it goes there, and maybe a lot of countries, not just Mexico. He claims Mesoamerican heritage proudly, and that's great. That's really awesome that he does. And I see a lot of comments. Daniel, I can't see your comments on here, so I don't know what's going on. I think I've repeated this before. Are we talking about Tim Pool? Oh, okay. Are we talking Ochanos in his YouTube channel? Is he's native? Oh, that's great. I didn't know that. I didn't know we had a YouTube channel. Identifies as Mexican. Tim Pool is a tool. I haven't seen many far northern natives post a word about it. These things occur regularly in Mexico. Many of them turned a blind eye for decades. Now, what I kind of wonder is like, if there weren't rules and laws about like how you could identify as indigenous or not, would he, Tenoch, identify as indigenous? Or I'm not really sure what he sees himself as, but judging, of course, by the comments, he is proud of his native heritage, and someone said that he did see himself as native. Okay. Tim literally is Irish and Korean. Wait, why are we talking about Tim Pool? Just kind of curious because, you know, this is Indigenous podcast and we're talking about Tim Pool. No, I'm just kidding. You guys can talk about whatever. Yeah, he is Indigenous. Yeah, and I agree with you. I agree. I see him as native too. I mean, again, he's not from a community, but I don't see him any differently. So yeah, I'm totally on board. Oh, someone brought him up? Okay, that's interesting. So, going back to the movie itself, I think I wanted to talk about like more so about the negative parts of what I didn't like about the movie. I mean, there's not that many. The first being that it was 2 hours and 41 minutes long. But it's all right. I mean, personally, like, if you got it, I don't want to say, if it's very hard for you to focus for a long time, I would be careful watching that movie. Uh, but I think it depends. Like, if it's an interesting movie, it's easy to focus, right? And for me, like, I definitely thought the movie was good. I mean, I thought that, as I said before, the transitions were easy to follow, but like during one part of the movie, sure, I think I probably butchered her name. She takes like, I don't know, it's like 10 minutes on trying to build the Black Panther for her, right? And using the marbles or the little, what was it? I think they're part of the beads that Tenoch gave her to combine it with the vibranium to make the Black Panther suit. And that took forever. That did not need to take that long. So they definitely could have like cut the time short a little bit more. But hey, you know, they're the producers. And then, yeah, the stalling, which kind of goes back to the time, right? Like, again, 2 hours and 41 minutes is a long time. That's close to 3 hours. I guess if I could say what was another part that was stalling was, I think, the process of, I think, analyzing like what was happening. It took quite a long time, right? I think when they had to explain to the CIA agent, I forgot his name, about why they needed him, why they needed the information that the CIA was like holding, it took like forever. It took like another like 15 minutes, right? But again, I like sometimes movies to move at a faster pace. I had no issues following it, but yeah. And then the third thing was just movie logic, right? Going back to the fact that where did they get like that submarine ship to go all the way to the Atlantic Ocean where the home of Namor was, right? That, and just like, again, going to fight him in his like pretty much his waters. That's where he excelled in fighting, him and his people. Yeah, just the movie logic itself. So, just going to read some comments here, guys. A lot of people agree with Mexico's government. This needs to continue, erasing us. Of course, it will continue to mislabel descendants of anything but what they are. That's modern erasure. Yeah, and I agree with you. That is modern erasure. That's what the government does. I really don't trust governments that much, especially like Latin American governments, for the problems that they've caused indigenous people and tribes since their inceptions. So of course they would think of ways to erase people. Are we talking about Jennifer Lopez? This has been a wild conversation. Because, it doesn't have certificates. Thought the U.S. was strict. Yeah, I agree that I shouldn't be surprised. Again, like, they are from the surface, right? So they had more exposure to certain weapons with other nations, with other advanced countries. So it would actually kind of make sense in a way. Maya for learning it. What's going on here? So I wanted to get to a comment. Even though the people who are from their pueblos don't receive too much, the fact that he allowed Maya people to be displaced says a lot. Mexico has some tribes, ignores others. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of Latin American countries, their governments are very corrupt, if not all of them. Well, I think in my view, all governments are corrupt. It just depends on how much corruption do you have to where it destabilizes your country. Oh, yeah. And what I wanted to get to today was, also what I wanted to get to was my community post. Okay. So yeah, as I said here, I want to thank those that answered it. The world population reached 8 billion people recently, and I wanted to know what your thoughts were. And did you see this as a positive or negative light? And what are the most concerning issues that lie ahead? I didn't really give my views yet, and I wanted to thank the people for commenting and what they thought. I view it as somewhat negative. I'll explain why. I need some more graphics to present my reasons. I don't have it, but I see it as negative because if you look at where the populations are growing at, they are growing in a lot of poorer, less modernized, African countries, right? So a lot of those people that are being born into very impoverished like places, poor places where they don't have many resources, where their life is, they're going to face many obstacles. Of course, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be born, but you're just bringing children into a very difficult world. And I'm not saying that you can't have like one child or something. I'm saying that like a lot of these families have lots of kids. Of course, if you look at the life expectancy of these countries, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise because, just the lack of education, the fact that parents really rely on children to help them progress in life. And then let's move on to like resources, right? That's more resources being used. Now, I watched a YouTube channel where someone said that he saw it as a good thing, right? He believed that we have enough resources to support like a few billion more people. But in my opinion, like, we got already like tons of people that are poor already. Like, let's focus on like making sure that they're taken care of. That's my view. To those of you that left the indifferent, why? I'm kidding. So going back, what else would I say? I'd say it's negative. I mean, it's just not good. I think for society, it means that there's a lot more work to be done to where better education can be there for less fortunate communities around the world. Birth control, but of course it starts from up top, right? Like governments have to change, and unfortunately you have a lot of dictators in countries that don't care for their people. You have money that's being mismanaged. You just have people dying left and right? So it's a sad situation. I really hope that once this war is over, we can really focus on helping the less fortunate people. And now I'm going to read the comments because some people probably had a lot to say. I'm going to change the music really quick, guys, before I read those comments. Change this up here. So, where did we start off at, guys? DNA heritage test was utterly racist. Talk about my DNA test. I'm kidding. Let's see here. J-Lo is triracial. Her family tree is far removed from. Okay, wait. Are the people that see subject for later? Domain. As the country expands, like in the U.S., land's needed for infrastructure projects. Yeah, I think what I'd like to also add that, like, and again, I plan on making a video about this very soon, is why is it that the modern, developed, industrialized countries, their populations are dwindling more and more? But of course, the poor countries are not, right? But what's the internal reason why these countries are suffering? Like Japan and Germany, right? They're the the top countries where their population is going to shrink. And it's going to be very noticeable by 2060, I believe. Now, the difference between Japan and Germany is that Japan very much focuses on not letting so many immigrants come in, where Germany welcomes them, right? At least for now. so the population won't fail. So they have enough people to fill jobs. You have a lot of people from the Middle East and Africa coming as refugees that want to take these jobs. So anyway, I won't lecture too much. Let's go on to the next comment. It's a lot of people. Yeah, it is. Yeah, 8 billion is a lot of people, I will say. The number of people is not the problem. It's the structuring of society. Okay. Structuring of society that IDs. Interesting. Love to talk more about it, but I can agree to that too. Cool. Thanks, Ancient Americas, for commenting. Sounds like Andre. Okay. Is Andre that guy that left that comment earlier? Probably. Guys, if you see someone that's just like straight up trolling, please let me know, and I'll lend them out the exit door. People of Mexico, people continue. But mestizo can also be racist against indigenous if Mexico keeps continuing discriminating against these people. Yeah. Yeah, there's still definitely a lot of racism, right? Especially in Central and South America. Said almost every day in Mexico has indigenous African roots. This actually supports. Well, I mean, I actually saw the video where he said that. I'll bring this comment back up. Thanks, Santiago, for saying that. Natives have historically been harmful to other natives since colonizers arrived, and even before. I mean, yeah, when the Spanish colonizers arrived, they would not have made it that far unless like other natives had aided them, right? Of course, they had their reasons, but we fast forward a little bit longer and we talk about like haciendas and encomiendas. Some of them were ran by native people that were loyal to the Spanish, unfortunately. They can do video on that. Maybe like 3% at most. I assume we're talking about African DNA. So it's not a reason for mestizos to not be considered native. Yeah. Yes, but not so much African. It's in the DR. Yeah. People get really real quick when it comes to world population numbers. We're in a virus or cancer. Just our minds. Oh yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm specifically just like talking about like, I mean, as I brought up earlier, just the less fortunate environments that these people have to go through. And I just thought like with better education, it would be better. But of course, the structure of where they are at, like the political and cultural structure, also needs to be improved. Then these people can live better lives. I hope that was clear. Earth can support 15 billion people living off the land, but can't support Can't support 15 consume this planet. Oh, okay. People, Thomas, thanks for the comment. People sound silly whenever they depict Mexico as having significant African heritage. Hollywood has moved towards authentic representation of indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere. While they still go with fantasy. Maybe a good thing, shows the difference. I mean, guys, please don't. I mean, whatever. If I find you leaving weird comments, I'm going to kick you out. Usually non-Latinos doing it. Whoa, I am way far behind the comments. I'm going to speed up. I'll get back to you guys' comments. Anyone have any questions for me so far? Yeah. Red. Sorry, guys, I'm just reading comments. What would you rate this movie? Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't give my star rating. So I would give this movie probably a 4 out of 5. To be honest, like I enjoyed it, but the movie did not need to be that long. Even I was sitting in my seat being like, oh, come on, like we can speed this part up. But I enjoyed it. I usually enjoy action movies. I guess to be honest, I really like sci-fi movies too. Um, so yeah, I thought it was good, but of course some parts could have been cut a little shorter. What do you guys all think? Overall, like y'all enjoyed, if you have seen it, of course. Usually it was good, but not worth over 2 hours. Yeah, I thought visually it was amazing. But yeah, not. I wouldn't say it's worth over 2 hours. Other movies about Indigenous recommended, Marcus? Yeah. I just made a video on Embrace of the Serpent. That was a very good movie. I would recommend that. There's also La Ultra Conquista, which I think I am going to do a review on also pretty soon. It shows a good representation of what life was like for Native people. I think it was Mexica people during the Spanish Empire, during the Spanish Empire's inception. So, like, I think it was the 1520s. Like, I think it started in 1523. But I'll make a movie about that too. Not a movie, a video. Yeah, I'll definitely check out his YouTube channel. Thank you. 2 hours? Yeah, it was too long. And now I heard that the movie Avatar, the new one, I think it's supposed to be 3-something hours. That is insane. That movie better be good. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, thanks. I'll definitely check out his channel, see what's going on. Okay, Tim. Yeah, I'm not even going to respond to that. So, yeah, guys, again, like I enjoyed it. I think that I do have plans for, yeah, I guess I could talk about like my plans for this week and next week. I have 2 people that I would like to bring on. I'll just be having like talks about certain subjects, and I'm focusing on my little project too. So, which I won't really talk much about. But yeah, I wanted to keep this video under an hour. So I'll drop the link one more time. If anyone wants to come on, I'll answer any questions anyone might have. I guess, what other Indigenous movies I really liked that I enjoyed? I know people will judge me. Maybe some people will, but I liked Apocalypto. Say what you want about it. I genuinely enjoyed that movie. A 2-hour movie better have plots, visuals, a long storyline to keep me watching. Yeah, I agree. Define ethnicity is just how to use define race, but with a cultural component, any identity based off Right. I wanted to get back to a comment because, well, there's too many comments, but which is great. Thank you guys for the comments. Again, if you guys enjoyed, please like. And I think it was about like the African ancestry, right? Like, Tanosh is like a smart dude. So you might as well just say, bring up European ancestry and like that we have like other ancestry too, right? And let me explain why I said that. Is that like the percentage you have like native people, indigenous people that like have like a very small like amount, if not anything, of African ancestry, right? And just to me personally, I don't see a reason to talk about my African ancestry at all. It's nothing against it, but you know, I run an indigenous podcast and I focus on indigenous like native things, right? I'm from Peru. If people want to like talk about their African ancestry, that's great, that's cool. But just me personally, like, and and again, I have like African ancestry, but not every Mexican has African ancestry. I hope like most people understand that. Even not every Mexican has European ancestry too. Someone said it's a lie. Many do not have black ancestry. It's a Chicano studies academia talking point. Erasure. Okay. I didn't know that. Need to refresh myself with Chicano studies. Georgia Lopez got 1%. Hey guys, if there's a person named Andre that's like, I keep on seeing comments about him and I don't know why, but if there, again, if someone's like being a straight troll and just being rude, just tell me. I'll try to find him and block him. Or put him in timeout because I have that power. Yeah, you know, there was a lot of natives that were sent to Spain and Europe in general during the colonial era. And I think one of the cities was, what was it called? It was that they were sent to in Spain was actually an Arab, had an Arab name. I'm finding it right now. Seville, right? That was an Arab city, or should I say Moorish city, for a very long time. So yeah, many of them are sent there. I don't know how many. A lot of the natives that were sent to Spain actually didn't make it. They died. Ships would sink. It was normal for ships to sink, so they died in the sea. At least 4,000. Yeah, Mexico were taken to Spain. Yeah, and that's just Mexico, right? So you have a lot of other people from South and Central America too. So it's just really unfortunate. Okay, so that's Andres. I don't know why you talk about political stuff in here. All right, Andres is gone. Let's talk to you later sometime. But yeah, guys, I wanted to thank you all for coming on. And if anyone again had any questions, just let me know. Just reading a couple other comments here. Yeah, I think I had spoken about Lou Diamond Phillips in a video with Lakota guy a while ago. How he was like Filipino, but he took on Native American roles. Yeah, apparently he doesn't, but you know, it's his loss. But yeah, guys, I think again I want to keep this to the hour. It's over, and I'm probably gonna wrap this up. I see people are leaving comments. I love to see it. But tomorrow is Monday and I have to work tomorrow. So yeah. Just want to thank everyone again that came on. Thank you guys for your support. I have a lot more content coming in soon. And yeah. If anyone didn't have anything else, I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. Yep. Indigenous soldiers were sent to the Philippines. That's for me. All right. Sounds good. What are my thoughts on cultural appropriation? I mean, I think that there's more serious issues to worry about, like missing murder Indigenous women, land treaties, than cultural appropriation. I think it's relevant if, like, I'll say one thing about that. And I talked to the Alexander Wounded Side some time ago, and we talked about like how wearing Native American tribal feathers, it's, I don't know, it's not really good if you're not Native to wear that, because I think it's something that has to do with war with his tribe. So it's just like a sign of respect, right? But yeah, aside from that, like I see more concerning issues than worrying about cultural appropriation. But that's me, right? Other people will tell you differently. So yeah, love in the comments. So didn't I say I'd go? Yeah. Modern Warrior. Oh, don't get me started on him. I could talk about him for like an hour, but I don't got time. So yeah, guys. Again, I gotta sign off. If you want to talk for a little bit after this, feel free to come in. I'll leave my little studio open for like maybe a few minutes if anyone wants to pop in. The links in the chat. Yeah, I got things I gotta do. So you guys all have a good night. Except the trolls.